we're going to start. All right, everyone, good morning. It's Marissa and Kyle here, and we have Captain Brae as our special guest today.
Good morning, good morning.
So today we are broadcasting from New London Ledge Lighthouse here in Long Island Sound, and we're going to kind of walk through each level of this building all the way up to the lantern room, talking about everything lighthouse in between. So you want to get us started, Brae, about a little bit about the lighthouse, when it was built, and why it's kind of important in this harbor specifically.
Sure. To get started, this lighthouse was first built in 1909, and they've etched the number up on top of the opening of the door. Right now it's closed because of winter, and we haven't opened up taken the cloth off until it gets a little bit warmer. The lighthouse that we're on is square, and so when they built this lighthouse, it's designed that it's exactly square, and each corner is pointing on a compass point. So as you're looking behind me, that corner points due south. That's important because due south from here is where ships would be coming from the Atlantic Ocean into New London Harbor. So today, if you were a submariner, you would be coming in out of the Atlantic Ocean, right up past this lighthouse, and you would put this lighthouse on your right side and head right up, directly up into New London. So each corner, that was south, west, north, and east. And that is a very unique feature of this particular lighthouse. This is the only lighthouse of this design in the United States. So it's very, very unique. 3 stories, and it's what we call a mansard roof that's located here. Beside me, besides the entrance, behind me is the power of this lighthouse. So this lighthouse, even though no one lives here, it is still an active lighthouse. It still has a voice, we call it a foghorn, and it has the heart of the lighthouse, which is the light itself on the top. In order to power that, they use solar panels. Inside are a bunch of batteries that get charged up, and so at night it can operate the light, or in foggy conditions it could turn on the foghorn that's right next to us.
So,
yes.
Oh, sorry, Brae. So we are, I don't know if you guys all can tell, but this lighthouse is off in the middle of the water. It's not connected directly to land. So my question is, why did they put a lighthouse here in the middle of the water?
They put it out here in the middle of the water because behind me, we can't quite see it, is a rock pile. At high tide, most of that rock pile is covered. And if you're a large ship, you don't want to hit that rock pile if you're leaving New London or coming in. It's slightly to the east of us.
Okay.
So to warn off that rock pile, which there's a record in the history books of all sorts of boats from New London in the fog, coming out, going a little bit too much to the left, and going up on the rock pile, and lives have been lost. So they felt by 1908 that it was very important to warn ships of that rock.
All right. So the red color of this lighthouse is also kind of important, but we can talk about that a little more inside. Behind us as well, we have New London. And then if you kind of scan a little more to the right, we have the Thames River. And then on the right of that, we have Groton as well. So we're right here at the mouth of the Thames River in Long Island Sound. So I think now would be a good time to kind of head inside.
Sure.
We can see an overall look at what the lighthouse looks like. So if you want to lead the way, Brae.
Yes, I will.
And while we're maneuvering, if you guys want to kind of say hi in the comments, put where you're watching from, and any schools that you guys are affiliated with, we'd love to know.
And we have Jennifer Ayers saying hello from Watertown. Hi, Jennifer.
Awesome. So now we're heading into the other door. Okay. Okay, so now we're on the first floor and we're going to walk through.
As we enter on the first floor, this is a house. And because we're surrounded by water, the closest point to land is a mile. And in the wintertime, you don't want to be out on the water every day trying to get groceries and coming back and forth. So when you came out here, you needed everything. It's like camping. You had to have everything with you, and you're going to be here multiple days. And so this was the original kitchen located here. The next room over, this is the living room. And this is where the guys would relax on the first floor. The picture on the wall where it says 1909 to 1987, that's a very important date for lighthouse keepers. In 1909, 3 men were assigned to take responsibility for the maintenance of New London Ledge Lighthouse. Ever since then, it has always been 3 men. It was never a woman. So it was always called a stag light, and even if you were married, you did not bring your wife or your children out here to live out here because they considered it as hazardous duty. During the wintertime, it freezes up, and that could be very dangerous for families. 1987, the Coast Guard eliminated what they call lighthouse keepers. So in the United States, all lighthouses were demanned. That means the people that used to live here were no longer here, and the last folks in the Coast Guard assigned to this lighthouse painted this on the wall. So this has been here ever since 1987. And it's a memorial to the folks between 1909 and 1987. So during the big wars, they were out here. During the hurricane in 1938, they were out here. Since 1987, it's been automated as they call it. Runs that way.
Awesome. So if you guys have any questions about lighthouses or for Brae during this, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'd love to answer them for you. I have a question about what some of the duties were that the lighthouse keepers would do while they're out here.
Well, it's just like your duties at home. The only thing you don't have to do is mow the lawn, but you had to shovel the snow because obviously when it would snow out here. Your primary duties were, the lantern room is up here, was to keep the light burning. Mm-hmm. So originally, this light, in order to flash, it would rotate, it would turn. So one of your duties there was to wind up a weight that went from the lantern room, and about an 80-pound weight would sink all the way down through the middle of the lighthouse. It would take 10 to 12 hours to do. Your job was to wind it back up, and that's what would make the lens spin, is by having this weight drop. Now, of course, everything is automated and it's not used anymore. The other thing is you had to make sure the light worked. In the early days, it was a kerosene lantern. You had to go up and you had to clean the lens. You had to go up and refill the kerosene lantern. Once you were done with that, you had to clean the windows. You had to maintain the lighthouse. You had to cook your meals, sneak in some sleep sometime. Things like that. So it's just like running a regular house, only your job is at night, is when it's most important. So when the sun goes down, you have to maintain that the light goes on. And all night long, if that light goes off at any time, immediately you have to rush up there and figure out what was wrong and relight it. Because your job is to keep this light going all through the night. Also, because it had a foghorn, you also had to constantly look out the door and see if there's any fog. If there is, you turned on the foghorn. And then when the fog went away, you would turn it off.
All right. I think that's a good segue up to the second floor. So we're going to head up that way. While we're doing that, try to kind of guess what you guys think the purpose of the lights would be. We'd love to know your thoughts about that and any other questions that you have.
We have Mike saying hello from Oregon.
Oh, hi.
And
It's early.
and Iris from Mystic. They've always wanted to see what the inside of this lighthouse looks like.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching all the way from Oregon. It's pretty early there. And thank you to Hazel and Iris for watching dutifully every week. We appreciate it. So this is a bunch of bedrooms on this floor. We're going to head to the one all the way over here. This is in the east corner of the lighthouse. So right now there's a lot of pictures that are on the wall. So I want to kind of show this one first, Kyle. This is a map of Long Island Sound. Over here is New York. Connecticut is on top over here. New Haven, Old Saybrook, the Connecticut River, and we're over here at the mouth of the Thames River. You can even see where we are right there. So we're really close to the eastern side, to Block Island Sound, and then Atlantic Ocean right here. So there's a lot of boats that are coming through here. And if they're coming into Long Island Sound, our harbor is one of the first harbors. So.
And Debbie guesses that maybe the lighthouse helps mariners as an aid to navigation.
All right, good.
Very good.
So yeah, Brae, if you want to talk a little bit about the lighthouses that are around this area and how you can tell them apart,
Okay.
that'd be awesome.
If you could film over here. So this is a picture of 4 of the lighthouses of probably 8 or 10 that are in our area. This is New London Ledge Lighthouse. This is where we are. Avery Point, this is one of the last lighthouses built. The Coast Guard, this is a memorial lighthouse built in 1942 to all the Coast Guard men who gave their lives to trying to save people. New London Harbor Light is our local lighthouse in New London. It's the 4th oldest lighthouse in the United States, 4th one built and operated, and still is operated, but the house where the keepers lived is in private hands at the moment. And the one that's perhaps most famous because of such bad weather and a hard location to build is Race Rock Lighthouse, which is out at the entrance to Long Island Sound from the Race. Next to this, there's a series of different colored lights. You have 4 lighthouses at night that if you were out on your boat on the water, you would look out across the water and you would see a whole variety of different types of lights. You would see lights from cars, you'd see lights from houses, you'd see street lights, and a lighthouse. But how do you separate out the lighthouse's light from the street lights? The street lights are always solid. They're always on, except if there's a branch of a tree in front of it, the wind blows, putting the leaves in front of it, taking it away, it would look like a flashing light. Now, is that a lighthouse that I want to know and want to go near or not? And they tried to figure out a system for mariners who are out on the water to figure out which light, what's a great way to figure out which light is which. So these are what is called the characteristic of each light. This lighthouse, 3 white flashes, 1 red every 30 seconds. This lighthouse, not too far away from us, only flashes green. This lighthouse on New London shoreline is white, and out at Race Rock Lighthouse, it is red. Each one is different from the other. So the importance about the flashing for this lighthouse is it repeats the same flash every 30 seconds. And if you look out from your boat toward shore and you see this light flashing and you see it 3 white flashes, 1 red, you know it's going to repeat every 30 seconds. So when you see a repeated series of lights, you can look on your chart and say, okay, that's New London Ledge Lighthouse, mouth of the Thames River, that's where I want to go. I'm going to go toward it. And that's why each lighthouse has its own characteristic light. They're not all the same.
Awesome. Perfect. So you can see in the middle here, I just want to show It shows the description on the chart where each signature would be. So let's do the one we're at. So it kind of shows you, this is basically the nautical speak for what you would be seeing. So you could look at a chart, find the lighthouse symbol, read the signature there, and then know where you're at.
So it says group flashing 3, 1, 2, 3, and then one red, flashing 1 second red every 30 seconds. It says it's 19 meters off the water, and it also has a voice called a horn. In this case, a foghorn that sits outside on the shoulder of the lighthouse. Not all lighthouses have foghorns, so that's a unique feature for this particular lighthouse, to have a voice.
Perfect. So we're going to go up to the next floor. So you want to follow us? Any questions?
Yeah, Mike from Oregon wants to know, is the lighthouse open to the public, tours, or rent out for overnight stays?
Ooh, good questions. Brae?
The lighthouse is open for tours during the summertime, during the summer months. Yes. It's not, but we do not have overnight stays at this point, in this time.
All right, so can you just explain real quick, Brae, what this room was used for back when there were
We're
keepers
on the
it?
3rd floor. This is the only double room in the lighthouse, and this is a workroom that supports the light at the top. So back when this lighthouse was built, they need to have a place to have a variety of supplies. In order to keep the kerosene lantern going, you'd have to have wicks, you'd have to have cleaning materials. It sits inside of a very large glass lens. The light's in the middle. You have to polish the lenses. You have to have the material for that. This is an area where they could work from. And also, if something really big had to come up, or something up in the lantern room this large to come down, they could bring it down to here, lift up the floor, a panel in the floor.
So this right here.
And there's a second panel on the second floor. You remove both of those, and you can lower it all the way down to the first floor and open up the big doors, slide it out to the ship if it needs to be repaired. Also on this floor is the famous room of urn. So every lighthouse that's worth its salt, if you will, has its own ghost.
Ooh, tell us the story, please.
So very quickly, the quick story is that the head lighthouse keeper was out here one day, and his assistant, who was with him, had gone back to shore, and the head lighthouse keeper up on his mail. So he opened up a letter, and on the letter it said, was leaving him. A Dear John letter.
Aww.
His wife lived in New London, but she couldn't stand his being out here at the lighthouse as a lighthouse keeper, and she was left alone all the time. He was very busy out here working. He liked what he was doing out here. She did not like having him out here, and said, I've fallen in love with a local boat captain on one of the ferries that runs to maybe Fisher's Island or Block Island. And as a result of that, he was so distraught, he went to the very top of the lighthouse and jumped. Never to be found again. So the story goes that if you jump over the side, but he would do strange things for you. And So Ernie's, always people come out here seeking to see if they could find Ernie's spirit. So we're not going to go into that room. We're going to inspect that room, but we're on the 3rd floor, and that was supposedly his bedroom. And that's where he supposedly opened up the letter that they found. When the lighthouse, his assistant came back here, he found the door open to the lantern room up on top.
And Mike wants to know, is the lighthouse maintained and funded by the Coast Guard?
The lighthouse is not maintained by the Coast Guard, but rather a foundation in which Project Oceanology is part of that foundation to raise money to open it for tours like this and for educational purposes. The Coast Guard only maintains the light and the foghorn.
Part of my camera work, it's a little steep stair here.
All right.
This is the lantern room. This is the heart of the lighthouse. We're now about 58 feet off the water. And this strange contraption in front of me is a lens. This is about 2 years old. It's now LED. It first was kerosene lanterns, moved on to electricity, where it actually was a regular light bulb. And as things progressed into solar panels, a regular light bulb too much power, so they converted over to a 12-volt system, and now they've converted to an LED light. This is one of the last lighthouses to get an LED, because the big problem was the color red. To make it intense enough so that the white light can be seen 14 miles away, nautical miles, but the red light couldn't initially. So they had to double up the system for red in order to get that distance traveled across the water. We have a water view all the way around us. And looking around us, it gives us an idea of where we're located. We're, again, a mile from shore. And to the east of us is that rock pile that caused this lighthouse to be built. And right now you can't see it because it's high tide.
Yeah, it's right around where those buoys are, though. The buoys are also kind of showing where that light is. Or where the rocks are, I mean.
Right. And the worst storm that we know of for this lighthouse to be involved with was called the hurricane in 1938. Back then, they didn't have names for hurricanes. And when the 38 hurricane, it was the worst hurricane to hit this area of Connecticut. At the height of the hurricane, winds were over 120 miles an hour. The water level was 13 feet higher than it normally is, with waves on top of that. And there were 2 lighthouse keepers out here, and they had no idea that the hurricane was coming. So they went up to here to get away from when the water hit the building. The building survived, but it blew out the windows on the 1st and 2nd floor. And so on the 1st floor, where we first began, and we were looking at the painting on the wall, water was just flowing right through the lighthouse. But because of the engineering and the basement walls that are between the water level, and they come up about 13 feet, and then they build the rest of the house on top of that, each one of those walls all the way around is 13 feet wide. So solid concrete and steel. And that is what protects this lighthouse from those big waves and storms. And I saw It's Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry, the House of Records down there. I actually saw the description of the next day after the hurricane of 38 by the head lighthouse keeper. Each day he has to log in what went on that particular day. And he just logged in that he had a little bit higher wind than normal for that day. So
That's awesome.
So the feeling is that probably spray was going over the top of where we are right now.
58 feet high.
58 feet high.
Wow.
So this lens can be seen 14 nautical miles away. And remember, it flashes 3 white and 1 red.
So this one's the white, this one's the red?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. From a distance, you can't tell which is which.
Awesome.
And so this whole space was all part of maintaining, keeping the windows clear. And the fog comes in, they want to make sure the windows don't fog up. They had to clear those. Not only did they turn the light on at night, but also they turned the light on during the day from that. And then maintaining the whole structure around here was also part of their duties that were here. So the lighthouse keepers, typically, they were here for 2 weeks and had 1 week off. So it was a 3-week shift. 3 people were assigned, so always 2 people were here. So every Friday was taxi day, Uber day, Uber boat. Uber boat would come out by the Coast Guard, and they would drop 1 crew member off, and he would bring groceries for a week. And the crew member who's ready to get off, he'd get on the boat and go back. You had a whole week to party, but when you arrived out here, your duties were 24 hours a day. So for 2 weeks, you were up for 24 hours a day, because during the day, you did normal maintenance routines to maintain the building, prep anything you had to do for the night's activity with turning the light on, and at night, then you had to make sure that the light stayed on. And so there was always somebody up, and somebody has to be ready to maintain all of this to keep it going. This lighthouse is now part of the National Weather Service. So for Eastern Long Island Sound, the University of Connecticut has a weather instruments package outside, and this is used by any mariner who wants to know the weather conditions that are out here with this.
Yeah, we can walk outside and we can show them that because it's right up here on this.
Sure.
So let's do that. Let's go out. They can get a nice view as we go along. So right here, there's a solar panel that helps to run all the equipment. And then if you look up this tower into the sunlight, there is an instrument for wind and for temperature as well. So my question to you, Brae, is, did the lighthouse keepers have any fun while they were on the lighthouse?
I think they did, but they weren't supposed to tell anybody. So one of the fun things that they would do is the lobstermen would stop by on their way home after they picked their lobsters and said, look, if we bring in some lobsters, will you cook them up at the lighthouse and we'll have an opportunity to have a lobster dinner. And so they actually gave them a couple of lobster traps and hung them off the side of the lighthouse to go lobstering back in the day when the lobsters were still here in Long Island Sound. If you're a fisherman, you'd fish from here. And certain times of the year, you'd probably be very successful at getting dinner for the night and having fish. The other thing is that not too far away, there's a very popular beach called Ocean Beach. And we understand that occasionally there were some young ladies that would paddle out to visit. They know that there are 2 single guys that are out here at the lighthouse, probably don't get to see or talk to very many people, and they may come out for a visit for short periods of time. But you didn't hear that from me.
Well, the whole world knows now. They have a lot of photos downstairs in the gallery, and they also had dogs and puppies on here at one point as well. I saw in the pictures. So Any other questions from the audience before we sign off?
Yeah, we have a few more. We have a couple from Mike, who is asking about the lights that are used. He expected there would need to be a lens to enhance the light, but this is pretty modern. And how much power is needed to run these LED lights? He was also wondering if the original lights were kept for the museum.
The original lens that was out here was called a fourth order Fresnel lens. In the 1980s, they took it out, and it is now in the Customs House Museum in New London. So it is still in the area, but it's not out here at the Lighthouse. When they took that out, that was a high maintenance light, and in order to operate it, you had to have somebody manually turn on a system to cause a weight to drop down through the center of the lighthouse to cause the light to spin. When the lighthouse went automatic, they needed to have an electric motor to drive it, to spin it around. And then they said, well, this lens is really made up for an old-fashioned system, clockwork mechanism to spin it. We need to upgrade the lens that's out here. So as solar panels have evolved, lights have evolved, this is the latest and greatest that they're doing now.
All right, and also we have Walter Bernard saying they used to take pizza out to the caretakers.
Matter of fact, Walter used to deliver newspapers and milk. And when we would come out with educational programs from Project Oceanology on the EnviroLab, Walter would stop at 7-Eleven or Cumberland Farms or something, pick up a couple of products and said, okay, as we're going to go by, we're going to make a quick stop. And we'd throw up the daily newspaper or gallon of milk or something, whatever they wanted.
So he was a past captain at Project Oceanology.
Yes.
And we're very happy that he still follows us and
Yes.
catches up with what we're doing. So just a little background for everybody else who doesn't know
Right.
Walter.
He's now comfortably retired in Maine on the coast. Probably wishes he could be here.
Yes. All right.
All right, and Heather Marion says, good morning, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Heather. I hope you have a great day, too. And Deb Troutman says, hi, Brae. We love the Lighthouse.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brae, so much for sharing your knowledge of the Lighthouse. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week as well for our Facebook Lives on Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.